In today's video we're going to make a Bumblebee, a little spinning and flying firework. Great little fun toy to make, very easy and good value for the amount of gear you go through to make them. Starting out with a standard 1/4 inch or 6mm inside diameter tube, roughly 50mm or 2 inches long. Cutting that in half to end up with roughly a 1 inch tube. Now I'm going to use a little wooden block jig that I've made up, basically 16 10mm diameter holes, which is the outside diameter of the tube, roughly 8 to 10mm in there. I think these ones are all about 8mm. When you drill these, the pointed end of the drill leaves a lovely little rounded end in there, so you end up with a lovely little rounded end clay cap. Alternatively, you can just whack a little bit of masking tape on the end of the tube and use a 1/4 inch rammer. The rammer can be made out of any non-sparking metal, brass or aluminium, or alternatively you could probably use a wooden dowel on a project this small. You don't have to put that much force in it to set the nozzle in, but today I'm going to use my little jig. I like to make these a few at a time, so having the jig, you can make them 16 at a time, doesn't take too long, great fun. We're going to close the end of the tube up when we're finished with hot melt glue, so I'll just switch the glue gun on. The first step, I've got a little ram through funnel that's come out of a set of Walter rocket tooling for a little bottle rockets. This is a great little thing for loading these up. First thing we're going to do is put the clay end plug in. So a little scoop of powder. I've already worked out from making these over time just how much to put in. You don't want too big a bulkhead in there, otherwise it's going to get too heavy and reduce the amount of fuel you can get in there. These are pretty small, so not a lot of pressure involved. I'm going to press this today, but you could just give it a couple of hits with a rawhide or rubber mallet just to consolidate that. I'll just very gently press it down there through the funnel, pull the rammer out. Now the next step, there's a lot of my rammers, I've got O-rings on there, they stop dust blowing back out, but the other thing they do, you can use them to mark up where your clay vent holes are. So just get a bit of fine marker and we'll just mark up whereabouts in there the clay bulkhead comes to, so I know where to drill the vent hole a little bit later on. Next step from there is to load him up with the fuel. This is our standard rocket fuel, just 75 15 10 black powder, been ball milled for roughly an hour, and we've added around 5% metal powder in there, a bit of magnesium and a bit of titanium just to get some gold and silver sparks. They look pretty good at night. We're also not going to load this one all the way to the top with fuel. We're going to leave a little bit of room near the end, put a little bit of slow nitrate flash powder in there, a coloured flash, a red one. What that'll do is at the end of its burn, it'll give a nice little red jet of colour out the vent hole, and because the nitrate's pretty fast burning, it'll send the Bumblebee off with a bit of burst of speed, and usually in an odd direction, coupled with the colour that's looks quite good at the end of its run. That's probably just a little bit over halfway filled now. Put a small scoop in there. Just solid him up. Very little pressure needed to do that. If you're doing it by hand, 3 or 4 whacks with the mallet, nothing too hard, not hard enough to split the tube. Now that's probably about 6mm, a 1/4 inch from the top of the tube, maybe a little bit more, maybe about 8mm. And we're just going to put a small scoop of nitrate flash in there. This is a red nitrate flash made with strontium nitrate, some aluminium powder and a little bit of PVC powder as the chlorine donor to get the colour. Just very gently push that down. On top of that, tiny little bit of tissue paper just to keep everything in place. Fold him down. I'm just going to close him up with a dab of hot melt glue. The end plug of the glue is probably 1 to 2 millimeters thick. Tidy him up a little. Wait for that to cool down for a minute. Now once we've got to that stage, ready to drill the vent hole, the spin hole. It's the bit that gives these little guys their thrust. So we find the marker we put on there so we know we're drilling into the fuel, and very gently with the drill using a 2mm drill bit. I'm going to put 1.8mm visco fuse into this, so 2mm drill bit will suffice. Drill the vent hole. Start spitting out a bit of black powder once you get into the fuel, which is where you want the fuse to get into that. And we'll just insert a bit of 1.8mm visco fuse. And then just to make this a little bit easier to light, we'll just bend him up and out the way. The last little bit of this project is to stick a wing on him. I've printed up some insect wings on some 200 GSM paper. You don't have to print them up, you can just cut out a little wing. Now, because I've bent that fuse up and out the way, that allows me to roll that tube over so the vent hole sits at about a 30 to 45 degree angle downwards. That'll provide upward thrust as well as spinning the Bumblebee up when you light it. So we'll just put a little bit of hot melt right in the centre of the tube there, and just position that wing on there. Now you should be able to see the angle there. That fuse is probably on about a 40 degree angle from the wing. What that'll do is, as it spins up, it'll also lift it into the air, and on top of that, that's going to spin counterclockwise as I look at it. I'm also just going to twist up each of those sides of the wings to turn it into a little propeller, which will also give it some added lift. And that's the project done. That's your 6mm Bumblebee Firework with a little red burst of power at the end that'll flick it off in a weird direction quite quickly. That'll look really good. Just need to go out inside and light it now. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. There's more videos coming. Thanks for watching. Let's give him a go.